Maybe next weekend we go slide to the library. I want to check that out. It's a vibe.
Oh.
You want a vibe, yeah.
Oh, do. Mark just called me. I was supposed to do a podcast with him originally, but the thing, there's no thing. I'm gonna do some things with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been challenging because he has. I'm recording this. So I was like, should we talk about this? Is he comfortable with this?
Yeah.
I love you, Mark. I love you. But he has a sleep apnea. So when he comes, like if he comes during the day, we're fine.
Yeah.
We'll do whatever the fuck. But if he comes at night after work, this man will fall asleep talking to you, like, oh yeah, and he doesn't know. He doesn't realize it. Like you're looking at him like, Mark,
sir.
like, hey, like I'm talking to you, dog. It's like how are you? You're shutting off. You're Mark, you're shutting. And you almost feel like a horrible person letting him drive home. You're like, you didn't drink. You're just smoking with me. But it's like, I don't know. Are you good to drive? Like you were just falling asleep in front of me.
Yeah.
In the middle of a conversation, like. But anyways, so that was the whole. I mean, me and him, we're supposed to be doing it for a while, but timing is very crucial with him. And if it's at night, he's useless. Yeah. You need him during the day or on drugs, which is.
Yeah.
But I want to just talk to everything. Everyone that I talk to, they feel this pressure of like, what are we going to talk about? I was like, don't think like that. You have to just think about every single time you've talked to me, and I want to just record talking to you. It's not that serious. There's nothing that you have to remember. I know how I feel when I talk to you, and let's talk. And yeah. And he's one of those people that I love talking to. Like it just.
It's like one of those people that you just know the conversation's always good, anyways. So just catch those exchanges.
Yeah, it's a good conversation, and we'll go from talking everything. We'll go from like, I don't know, because he used to gangbang, so he's like, we'll go from talking like rapping and drugs and to like, and then but he's like a wrestling geek, so we'll start talking about wrestling, and I'll start nerding out on like MMA or something a little bit. But then we'll get like very philosophical and stuff like that. He's the first friend that I met when I moved here, and honestly the only friend, because I made friends with Angel, but I don't know what's up with Angel. I know he's alive. I do know that he's alive, but I don't know what's gone on with his life.
That's true. That one really just fell off.
And I would make the argument that I put the most effort in him. Not that I don't put in Mark, but Mark is like effortless friendship. I don't have to keep tabs on Mark at all.
Right.
Angel's friendship was very sensitive in that, like, I knew that if like we had like an awkward day hanging out or something like that, like I'm probably not seeing him for like a couple of weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be anything serious, not even like an argument, just like if I confused him or like we were very different. We were like, granted, we were 18, 19 when we met each other.
Yeah.
But just there and 18, 20 years of life, we were already so different that like it was easy for the conversations to get awkward. Like he didn't understand. It would be very easy for him to be like,
I wouldn't be surprised if like from his end you were almost like a curiosity to him, like coming off very like eccentric in some way, and he's like, he wanted to know, a little bit about your mind, or how you operated.
It's funny you say that. I feel like with what you're saying, not like I've always thought this, but with what you're saying, I feel like he unconsciously, I don't even think he's thinking about doing this, but I feel like I was like new territory. Like I'm like I feel like I was like this, and not to sound corny, but I feel like I was like this dangerous kid who like lived things that he didn't live, but I was nice to him. He wasn't scared of me. Right. He knew that he could like, oh, he's that crazy, like he does drugs and whatever, but I could talk to him. He's not. I don't know who. I didn't go to his high school or anything. I didn't go to school up here, but I feel like whoever he met that was like me intimidated him. He had problems with or something like that. Yeah. And then when he met me, he was like, "Oh, you're like those guys, but
like I'm safe with you to an extent."
We don't have problems. So I could learn you. I could figure you out. And I always felt like that. I always felt like he was watching me, and I had no problem with it. Like I was fine being studied, but he never really gave a lot of himself.
Right.
He would ask. One thing I loved about his friendship was how much he asked questions.
Mm-hmm.
He just like he wanted to know why I thought the way I thought more than any other friend. I've had friends that agree with my thinking, and that's a certain type of conversation. But he was the first friendship, like you're my friend, that I always felt like he was. It was like it was so open that he was learning from me that it was like it was a unique friendship. It was like this big brother little brother thing, but we're the same age.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, I've definitely had those experiences with people too, where you've lived such vastly different lives, where even if you're at the same age, you can tell there's a very big gap in just life experience in general, where it can feel that way, a little brother, big brother kind of situation.
Yeah.
Huh, that's interesting. Well, I mean, it makes sense though. Then that just maybe the study eventually was over.
I think so. I think that um, I think I think I would be a better friend to him now. Not that I was a bad friend. I think I was a great friend to him.
Right.
I just think that there was times where I think I was over too much Joseph.
Too much of yourself.
Yeah, too much Joseph. Where it was like, I think you just scared him. Like I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were trying to impress him there or something, but I think you just scared him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you were trying to like give him your confidence, but I think you just scared him.
Maybe. I mean, he did kind of come off a little bit timid.
Yeah.
And probably developing in his own self confidence. So.
But I couldn't tell if I was doing it to him. That's why I didn't know if I was making him intimidated or if that's him. Like if that's his like introverted I'm studying.
I mean, thing. Did you ever notice any kind of other traits as you guys were working, like how he interacted with other people? Did you notice a similar mannerism?
No, but I noticed that when in the things that he was so comfortable talking about the things that he was comfortable with. Like if you talk to him about baseball, he was so comfortable talking about baseball, the mechanics of baseball, teaching like the smallest details about baseball. He was so comfortable, and the game. Like if you want to talk about baseball players and like baseball was his fucking world, and you would see it. You would see how quick he talks, and like it's just. You're a different person. You have so much confidence right now, and I would use like he wanted to rap with me, and we were rapping together. So I would use metaphors like, dude, you see that? You see how you just like talk to me so fast? That energy, find that in rapping. Like you don't have to think about it too hard. Like that confidence that you know what the fuck you're saying. You know what you're like. Find that and just rap. Like you know what you're saying. You know what you want to say. So there were some things where I could see like he would be confident. But even his confidence was quiet. Like I played baseball with him. I played basketball with him. Even when he was good and winning, quiet. He wasn't like bragging. Like his character, like he just doesn't have expression. He's taking it all in and he's studying things, but he has no like.
Or not a loud expression at that.
Yeah, or probably if you ask him, probably a very very little. Want to be recognized. Like he's fine learning shit and knowing things, but like the need to be recognized for things, I don't think it's there. And I think when he met me, he saw something where he's like, you get a lot of attention, but I don't think you don't really ask for it. And I think that's what he was kind of like learning from me because he doesn't command attention.
Yeah, no, he didn't come off that way at all. Like he didn't have any kind of behaviors that anybody would imply like you're seeking it right now, kind of thing.
But anyways, this is not to shit on Angel. I liked you. You're fun. Hit me up if you care to. But yeah, Mark. I don't think I could do I would do a podcast with Angel for baseball. Literally, we're not gonna talk about nothing else. Let's talk about baseball because it could be that.
Yeah, it would be a good extensive one.
And I would love that. It's like that's how extensive I want to make my YouTube channel. Where it's like, dude, I love talking. Period. I know that you think I'm like just a religious. Up to my friends, I know you think I'm just like the spiritual yoga guy or whatever. But like, bro, you could get me talking for hours about UFC. You could get me talking for hours about anything. So if I could find those people, where I'm like, oh, you like, when I could recognize in you that you love something, I want you to talk. Come to me and talk to me about that thing that you love, because we're gonna just keep going.
And I feel like that's what makes for a good podcast too, where you don't have to go into it being scripted in any way, but if there's somebody that catches your eye, that a specific trait or quality, whatever they have, that you think they can really share a good story on, you bring them in with that intention, but you take the conversation wherever it goes at that point.
If there's one,
but you have your seed.
Yeah, if there's one thing that is so obvious and that I learned from watching literally almost 10 years of Joe Rogan, is exactly what you just said. That, like, if I ask myself, why do you like watching Joe Rogan? Not just for 10 years. 3-hour episodes, almost 4 a week. Dog, I could hear this guy. I could like imagine him saying something, and it's him saying it. Like I didn't miss a beat. Like I know what he talks like. I know what every word sounds like. I've listened to him that much. But when I ask myself, what is it about it? What is it? Is it what he's talking about? Compared to other podcasts, it's the thing that I like is exactly what you just said. I can tell that when he's talking to someone, it just keeps going. There is no script. He can talk to anybody about anything, and I've never watched one episode that they're like, "Hey, so we're going to talk about this."
Yeah.
Never. He might have someone that their thing is that, but they're never just talking about that. He'll ask him about his life. He'll ask him about everything, and then then get into like your thing. Like, hey, so you're a doctor. Like, so what do you Then he'll get into that thing. But there are other podcasts, and what's funny is that those tend to be the shorter ones. So Joe Rogan, no script, talking as the conversation goes, whatever we want to talk about. The conversation ends up going almost always 3 hours. Other podcasts that are scripted only tend to go to like an hour, and then it becomes so obvious you're forcing this. And because you're forcing it, you could only squeeze like an hour 20 out of the conversation, because you're like, what are the talking points? What are and you're not even trying. It's not a conversation. You have your points, and you want to make your points, and then when you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
If I wanted to do that, I'd be a teacher. If I wanted to just like say these things, these are the things, write it down, I'll test you or something like that, I could have been a teacher for that. But I like the back and forth. Like, I want to feel call and response, baby. Do you agree with this? How does this feel to the room?
Yeah. The authentic engagement.
Yeah. And that, like, so I have learned a lot from those shorter conversations, because they are more specific and topic related. So you might learn more. But I've definitely got more people smart listening to Joe Rogan, because that conversation will go from so professional and how you got to where you've been to, oh shit, he asked me a question about my dad. I didn't know he was gonna ask me about my dad. And then it starts getting emotional, and now you're in that conversation for about 30 minutes. That's real life. I feel like even if you thought you were going to come to listen to me about yoga, yeah, my bad. I started talking about relationships because that was on my heart. The second I said that, this came in, and that's what I feel like everyone grows from. Whether they know that that's what they're going to get, or whether they know that that's what they're going to learn from or not, that's what I figured out that I learned from. Like, I didn't learn from obvious things to learn, like, obvious lessons. I learned from, like, watching people talk back and forth into each other. Like, oh man, he asked him, like, he said this and he was interested about that, and
like, I saw how this worked and that didn't, and so forth.
Like, sometimes I learn, and it's not even obvious to me that was the way that I was going to learn that. It's so, like, okay, I connected dots, but it wasn't obvious to me that was going to be the way that I connected them.
Interesting. Huh. Damn, I was just thinking of something to share or to elaborate on that. I was like listening to you and trying to hold the thought, and I'm like, woo!
Please, go for it. At any point, just go ahead and cut me off. But I've been thinking about locations, because this is like,
I really liked how it came out.
Yeah, like, I gotta compliment Mom. Like, I take this for granted, but you've made a nice space, because this looks really nice, like, on camera.
No, it's very comfortable.
But I've been thinking about, like, just locations, period, just this same thing, same space, this background, because I could do solo conversations, but I think I'm only gonna do that, in the heat of the moment, like I need a rant, y'all need to listen. But I would like it if the majority of my YouTube was conversational, because I feel like that's the best of me, where it's like where someone hears something that I said, and then I notice that they have an interest, and I'm like, oh, and then I expand on what they're interested in. Because when you talk to yourself, it's just you're like single minded into that thing. But when you hear someone's question, you're like, right, big picture.
Picture. Yeah, the contrast definitely helps. Well, I mean, and that's something that I feel like is bound to happen with podcasts when you're having discussions with other people, is that you really don't know until you get into it who you're going to have an authentic chemistry with. So, like, whether something's scripted or not, you're not going to find out until you get there what kind of conversational chemistry you have with someone. I mean, they might be very knowledgeable in a certain topic that you want to make the basis of what your podcast is about. But then it's not until you're in the moment where you're like, all right, I guess that's all we have to share today. So guess we'll wrap that up.
So, do you smoke weed?
Right? You done any drugs before? Just keep a couple like in the back pocket. Just right. How about this one? That would be an interesting like niche almost for podcasts, because the most standard thing that you imagine is somebody has a room, their office, their like space for it. You bring, as a host, whatever, you bring in different people. But that'd be an interesting spin to have the environment be part of what makes your podcast. Like he was in fucking Japan doing this, or like whatever, like a mountain in some cool ass area where in the background you just see, whatever kind of crazy views. I feel like that's something that
like the location caters to what's in like the episode.
Kind of.
I would like that spin.
But I feel like even that in itself, regardless if they really tie into each other or not, that's just a spin that you don't. It's not traditional. It's not the standard of what you see in a podcast. You're expecting the room or whatever, and I feel like that's something that alone is gonna draw attention.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say that I'm doing this for attention, but one thing that I do have interest in doing, that if this is what I get recognized for, would be interesting. I want to be known for having my family on my podcast, because that's one thing that I don't get from any, I don't get Joe Rogan, anybody. Name them. I've never seen them talk to their own family members. Like, yeah, I've seen you talk to your friends.
Conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I've seen your friends give it up for you. I've seen that whole like, oh, we pat each other on the back thing. How are you around your folks? Like, what is that like? You still got that energy? You still you?
Yeah.
I like seeing, like, when does it change? Like, because that's honestly very attractive when you can see the person be the same. Like, bro, you could throw anybody in front of this guy, you're gonna see this guy. That's one thing where I would like to explore, where it's like,
I agree. I mean, and even like just amongst our family, we've had so many in-depth conversations that have always, I feel like, blown away our audience. Anytime we have friends or whomever around, they're like, this is something you guys are comfortable talking about with each other. And we're like, absolutely. Like, for me, it's such a norm that sometimes I have to like readjust my perspective when I'm sharing certain things with other people and how they would handle a situation with their sibling or their parents. And it's like, you probably wouldn't go the same very straightforward route I would, because I'm that comfortable with, my own parents talking about certain topics, where my solution for them is like way out of the ballpark. They're like, that's not an option.
That's not available.
We don't have that kind of dialogue. They're like, oh.
Yeah, sometimes I've heard like not problems, but things that people are going through with their parents, and like, oh man, I haven't talked to so and so, and like, there's this going on, that I was like, that'd probably last a day. I don't know. There's just certain things where, like, I've heard like insecurities that people have with their families, and like, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine. All I know that I've had with you guys is exposure, and then like arguments due to the exposure. But like, never have I felt like, oh man, there's too much that's been said now, or like, they can't know this one. Like,
that's definitely something I've noticed from other people too, where like a lot of these other families have, like, I guess in quotations, like their limits with each other, and it's kind of the same way that they put
they'll say
boundaries
they'll say
on
boundaries.
like friends.
Yeah, they'll say boundaries.
Yeah, where it's like, you know, you cross that, like there's no going back with me. And it's funny because I've noticed that with like previous partners and their, you know, like strained relationships with loved ones and whatnot. And you know, I could be sharing like an argument or discussion or something that we got into, and at the end of the day, like regardless of the annoyance, I'm like, I don't care. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna take it to heart so bad where it's like I can't have you in my life, right, or I don't want you in my life. Like I'm gonna cut you off that strongly. Like, no, I appreciate the, like you referenced, just the exposure and sure the arguments that come from that, but that in itself is a beautiful thing anyways.
Yeah, I would take the raw overexposure argument and the awkward, I don't think I ever knew that guy. Or even worse, like something happens that I didn't know you. I didn't know that you did things like that. You know, that shock, like, what the fuck? Like, my brother was doing it, like that thing. I don't want anyone to feel that about me. That like one day they hear something about me and they're like, you? Like, no, like, yeah, like I would rather be like, you knew this. Like,
like this was not far out of my zone.
Yeah.
That is definitely true. And this one thing I've appreciated too, because you know, throughout life I've had a lot of like just rocky friendships, you know, and things going south, and it's kind of the same concept where at some point some boundaries might get crossed or whatever, or you know, the effort just kind of goes downhill. But it's been nice just having siblings where like I really don't care what you guys have learned or I share with you guys. Like I don't have like a preset filter where it's like I don't want to share that story with them, kind of thing. Like it's just comfortable, just sharing myself how I am in other aspects of life too.
Yeah, and that's not even to say that I've never felt judged by you guys, but by your judgments, I've felt like I can handle any judgment. You know, it's not like I've never felt judged at home, but through this type of judgment, I felt like, oh, this shit ain't real. Y'all ain't judging shit. Y'all like, if I can handle this judgment, that ain't judging. Y'all ain't judging. Y'all.
Yeah. Or even if it like in comparison, at least, and the world's judgment or perspective is so small that it's like
trivial. Yeah.
It is what it is.
It's a piece of pie.
Exactly.
It's a piece of pie.
Yeah. And I feel like for us, it's just I don't know, for me anyways, I feel like our form of judgment, there's always that bottom line where I know it's coming from a loving place anyways. So I try to take things with like just a grain of salt, that it's just offering me another perspective or another look into how you guys are viewing a certain situation I'm in, or vice versa, whatever. I appreciate it anyways. Like it's not something that
I'm learning. I'll be honest. I'm learning to appreciate it more now in life because I'm noticing that I don't get it out of you guys. Meaning that like, I'm not like.
Are people not as willing to like criticize you?
I don't know if they're not as willing or they just don't see it. Like you guys have spent, you guys spend so much time around me that you guys know what where the inconsistencies lie, because it's been my whole life. So you just know where it's like, he's been this consistent about this and he falls off here. You know, you guys would know because you have time.
Right.
People outside of my life, they don't have any reference to like my mistakes or things like that. So it's just like, wow, he's got it. Like he's on the money. Like he has, you know, his mind's on right. So I don't hear it. I don't hear people's so often. I'm giving my opinion on this and that, where people agree. That's another thing. People agree so much with what I say a lot of times that they don't get to the part of where they're like. It's almost like I talk too much for them to judge me. It's like I talk about so much that their mind is on what I'm talking about, that they don't actually like get to the point where like they're looking at me and like, how does Joseph Is he a liar? Is he a truth teller? Is he like, they don't really have an opinion about me because their attention is so much on what I'm talking about.
Part of that also has to do with the fact that unless we're talking about also long-term friend, they'll just never have the full picture.
Right.
So, hearing a portion of your knowledge, you can sound just like an evil genius, and they don't there's nothing else to reference it to.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that because you guys have enough of me to be like, you guys could always ground the crazy shit that I say with like, trust me, he's gonna bring it back down to like to loving it, like trust me, like give it a second, he'll come back around. Yeah. But like with strangers, it's either what I say is so different that like it like almost shocks them to tears, where they're like, where have you been? Or it goes to like repulsion, to like, how can you say that? Like, how do you think like that?
Yeah.
Because a lot of my views are like very absolute almost. So,
well, I can understand, especially for somebody that doesn't already know just how you think, that hearing some of your views or opinions on some things, because they come off so absolute, they don't think that you've made any kind of full circle on that understanding. Like, I've once viewed this in a very different light.
Right.
Like, I've shared probably this perspective that you've already had, but due to whatever, I've come to this understanding now. Like, they'll think you haven't.
They think it's fixed.
Seen the full picture.
Yeah, they'll think it's fixed as opposed to like. They'll see it as the beginning as opposed to like a completion of the whole thing. I forgot what I was saying though. People.
What is it? Well, in general, they may people might feel on your opinions that with the whole absolute thing that is.
So I think we're still on topic with the absolute thing. I've said my thing, my Joe shit. When you guys watch more things, you'll know what I mean by my Joe shit. But I've gone on my things and I've seen it go both ways. I've seen people be like, "Oh my god, I've never heard someone talk like this. Thank you. Like, I feel this way, but I've never heard someone talk like that." I've gotten that extreme reaction, or I've gotten the, "You are so dismissive. Like, it doesn't sound like you're taking in, like, you're acting like you know it all." You know what I mean? It's like there's, and it says a lot about what the person's going through. But I've said the same thing. Nothing changed in what I said. I've said the same thing to different people, and some people are just like, "Fuck, that's what I needed to hear," and then other people are like, "You don't have the right to say that to me."
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I think something like that boils down to who's ready to receive the message.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure,
if it's not their time to hear something like that, that big of an idea, they're not ready to hold something like that. So that's why a lot of the time, especially with delicate topics like that, with things of like spirituality and whatnot, I gauge those conversations in the beginning very closely to see how ready are you, how open are you, at the least. Because if I can gauge, like, you've probably never heard an idea like this, but I from other conversations, I can guess that you're open enough to it. I might slide a couple things or two and see how you take it. But if I feel like from the jump from a conversation, like, you're kind of already set in whatever ideas you have, I'm not going to push it very much on my own beliefs or how I view things, because in most conversations, the last thing I want to do is feel like I'm convincing you of something. I'll share my philosophies and my ideas if you're willing to hear it, but I'm not trying to tell you how to adjust or live by yours. Like, I'm not trying to make my ideas your own. Like, whatever you take from me is what you take from me, and that's fantastic. But I don't want to feel like I have to convince or have to,
I agree. I don't want to feel like I convinced you, but I do have a passion of what I speak about, that if you take something from what I said, I do feel responsible for that. I do. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but I do feel responsible for, like, bro, I took your fucking advice, man, and like, I'm still confused, like, that type of thing. I'm still more than like, yeah, there's two, like, it's like one aspect to look at is like, oh, like I'm telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Another aspect to look at is like, yeah, I'm telling you what to do, and now I feel responsible because I told you what to do. It's one thing to be like, hey, this is what you should do because I'm a know-it-all and I think everyone should do this. It's another thing to be like, no, I think that this is what you should do. I said this to you. I didn't say this to him. I said this to you.
I agree.
You know. Um,
Well, and that's something that, if it's from like an advice standpoint, I try to make clear to certain people that it's certain advice can only be beneficial to somebody, even from my own perspectives.
They gotta be looking for it.
Like, you have to know what's best for you at the end of the day. If you are going to take, my own or somebody else's advice, like, I can only share to you the best advice that I'd give to you if I were in your shoes. That's with my all ideas and my, my ways of operating.
Yeah.
That's what would work best for me in that position, and that's all the advice anybody can ever give anyone.
Yeah.
So if that shoe fits, if something resonates and you try to go for it, that's something that is like a personal accountability that you gotta take.
I have been accused of trying to guide how people think, and I don't have a defense for that. My only like heartfelt response is, okay, but it's not to really, I don't mean to like put myself up there and sound like that, but like, as Jesus to his disciples, if I gave you wisdom, I'm responsible for giving you that wisdom. So like, that's why I gave it to you in the beginning. That's why I'm giving it to, period. So there's this arrogance that comes to advice, because it's like, who are you to tell me that? But like, I'm not trying to say that I give Jesus Christ like advice, but there is that quality to certain things where it's like, I believe in what I'm saying to you, and you can hold me to it. Hold me to what I'm telling you. It's almost like the good side of, it's like, I'm not trying to, I don't care if there's a good side or a bad side, but if there is a good side to like trying to control how someone's thinking, it's like, fine, tell everyone that I tried to control how you were thinking, but I will be held responsible for how you were thinking. Like, if you do some fucked up shit, I'm fine with being the person that I made him think like that. Right. Like, I will wear that. So don't just be like, oh, she's just trying to control people. Yeah, I'm trying to control people, but I would literally do what you're doing. So whatever penalty you're about to receive, I'll go live it with you. I think that, and I'm not trying to like, I'm trying to just point at the difference, because I feel like there is a difference between you're overstepping the line with advice, and I can tell that you care. There's been times where people are giving me advice and I'm like, and I'm wondering in my head, like, can you paint a picture for me how you would do this? Or are you just like talking about a movie that you watched? You know what I mean? There's times where people are giving advice where I'm like, can you enact this? Like, can you show me this? Because there's a lot of times where I hear people talking, I'm like, I've read that book. I know the piece of advice that you're going to give, because I read that book. I watched those movies. So it's like, unless, and I'm not trying to say like I need a performance out of you, but I need something to like
what did you go through that made you come to this conclusion, and this is why you want to share this piece of advice with me.
Yeah, because I'm very intellectual myself, so I know what it looks like when it's like, oh, he's just at the moment he's just remembering what he read in the book one day, versus whew, he feels like I need to hear that, and he's like, brother, you sound like how I used to sound when you were your age, so let me talk to you. I'm not saying that I need to that direct, but I don't like when like you're just gonna regurgitate like bookish advice to me. Like, I love when it's heartfelt. Like one thing that I love hearing conversations with men about their children, because it's not typical, and people think like people get a certain idea about it from movies. But when you hear a guy who has kids talk to another guy who has kids, you actually hear the dad in them. You actually like, trust me, they're both going to talk about how they miss missing baby mama payments and like it's the most. I'm thinking about a specific conversation. I'm not saying all of them are like this, but I have seen guys have a very, very honest, borderline degrading conversations about how they're not the best fathers, but that they're acknowledging that and that they want to get better and da 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 da. I've never heard women talk like that. I've never heard women degrade themselves and talk about how they. But I'm working on myself. You know, I wasn't that good as a mom. I've never heard that. I was damn near in tears hearing guys talk like that because I've never heard my dad talk about how he's trying to get better as a father, or that he notices the flaws in something, or and these were young guys having this conversation, two black guys having this conversation, and I was like, man,
or at least definitely not a conversation that he would hold with us, but obviously maybe with other people. But
my dad, our dad will have every conversation with us. My dad is more sensitive than my mom in terms of like, my dad talked to me about his love stories. My dad talked to me about his high school sweethearts. My dad is a sensitive guy. Stop. All that stops the second it comes into like a father aspect. Insert him as father and make him answer questions as father and why do you do certain things as father, in that role. All of his wisdom is like gone. It's like he doesn't just
crumbles.
He doesn't know what to say. He's just like a shell of himself. Take dad out of the picture. He'll give you all the answers. He'll give you the answer to the fucking universe.
Yeah.
So that's why that conversation touches me so much.
Which that really makes you wonder, like, about his obstacles, like whatever he needed to go through in life for that, because that's extremely true. Like, for any fatherly aspects, it's just that was just his one of his biggest struggles.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and it's funny, like, or interesting that it doesn't even matter if we were the ones to initiate something or bring it to his attention, because I think all of us at a different point have blatantly just told him what it is we felt, or whatever had to be said, but it's just a wall there for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
That he just couldn't get past. I don't know where. It makes me wonder, like, what happened in Edison's like timeline that created that. Because I feel like that it's got to stem from something else.
Edison's my dad, by the way.
Yeah.
Our dad.
I don't feel like that just comes up like some kind of pre-programming. Like,
no, well, we could talk about karma actually. So part of me has to believe that it is pre-programming, but actually, scratch whatever the hell I was gonna say, because I just noticed I would rather say the karma thing. I would actually rather think that it's karma related, because what I'm talking about is him being put on the title as dad, right? That, I feel like that's such a soul thing, a soul story. That's something happens or happened in his past life, whether the type of son that he was in his past life or something, where in this life, the role when he assumes the role of father, it's to. I'm trying to like think of like, what is he going through, as with all the. I love my father, but with all the shortcomings that he has as a father, it happened.
It was like a lizard or something.
No, it was a big fucking wasp. He tried though.
No. Oh.
He tried though.
Ugh.
He's a big one. He had some weight to him.
That was a hello from somewhere.
Yeah, maybe that was a sign like, stop talking about your dad. Daddy-o, 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 daddy-o. The idea that I'm trying to cover is that I think something happened in his previous life regarding the role of father and son, or child. Yeah, father and child. That when he took the role this time, it's to understand what happened to him. So I feel like he's doing what happened to him, so that he could understand why his why that happened. Unconsciously, of course.
Yeah.
But like, our dad is so sensitive that I don't think he wants to be this dad. I think that's why he crumbles. I think he doesn't understand why he became this father.
Yeah.
I think he's almost like.
I think he judges himself almost worse than we do.
For sure. And I think that he thinks it's money related. He doesn't realize that it's just a father thing. He thinks that if I know my father, he thinks that if he had money and if things went differently, he could have fixed everything. He thinks that all of our relationships could have been different. He thinks that everything could have been bought and everything would have been fine with money. I know my father. He thinks that way. He doesn't realize that it was just his heart. His heart is good enough, and his heart is all he wanted. But he didn't realize that that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why to this day, you talk to him on the phone, he talks about, just waiting on the lotto, hitting the lotto. If I hit this number, Joe. Bro, I've been hearing this since I was a kid. I've been hearing it since I was 4 or 5 years old. That one day, if I hit the lotto. He has this idea that when money comes in or when the money is right, it's all gonna be. He thinks. I really think that my dad thinks that people argue because they're broke. I think that my dad thinks that people have bad relationships because they're broke, and that if everyone had money, no one would argue. That everyone's just pissed off because they're broke. Yeah. I really believe that, because when my dad put money into the picture, my dad doesn't see any problems in anything in his life and anyone else. If money's involved, no, there's no problem. We'll solve it. So what's no big deal?
Yeah.
No big deal. And he wants to know why you're making it such a big deal. Take money out of the picture, and then I've seen the worst out of my dad. Mm-hmm. Put money in my dad's hands, and I've seen him be very calm, very like just together.
Well, that may have a lot to do with just that part of it, like his just view on finances and things being put together from his own upbringing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
From at least from a lot of the things that I heard, they were never really in a deep struggle. And if at point they ever kind of were, Nana and Weil had such a standard way of holding themselves.
Nana and Weil's
grandparents, that as a child, you wouldn't even recognize poorness because that's not the attitude that they brought home.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
So, in his mind, things were always good. That they were good. They had funds, whatever. So things can be good.
Yeah.
And then I imagine, I guess, living a life long like that as an adult, you boil it down to the same measures.
Yeah.
If the funds aren't there, nothing else is going to work out.
Yeah, and the reason why I make the distinction, between my dad with money and my dad without money is because first of all, the judgment of him as a father comes from cheating on mom with a divorce or after they got divorced. Mm-hmm. But the judgment of him as like the reason what brings me the reason why I'm saying like he has a heart but the money thing is because he brings up the money thing like that would solve all his problems. What am I trying to say? Okay, so our issue with our dad has never been like our dad is broke or our dad doesn't have money. That's never been our problem with our dad. So the fact that that's his problem with himself, I think, is the issue. Mm-hmm. That he thinks that like whatever issue he has with himself is the issue, and I think that issue that he has with himself is what leads a man to cheat on his wife. Because he was with her for what 15 years before that. You're telling me you're telling me that he was cheating and he never got caught for 15 years?
Yeah.
No, I'm sure if he did cheat, I'm sure mom didn't just start peeping shit at the end. No, no. My mom's always been a fucking bloodhound.
Exactly. Her radar was always on.
Yeah, she didn't start peeping things at the end. It happened at a certain point. What do I think that certain point is? Age. I think age gets to a certain point where you're like, bro, I'm renting this house. I don't own this house. I'm renting this house. Like, you're coming up. Hold on, wait. Follow me. You're coming up, but you don't have the humbleness. You're not thankful for it. So you're coming up, but you're still comparing yourself to the other pharmacist in your job, to the other one that has a Lamborghini.
Not only that, his relatives, a brother, a very successful cousin.
Right. So certain conversations go a certain way, And I can see you cheating on your wife to gratify yourself because what I have is not enough. I'm still not winning in this game of life. I know how men think. I know how that goes. So the reason why I'm making the distinction with the money and the just his heart is because we would have all just appreciated had he solved his problems going to his heart, deal with us through his heart, meaning don't try to buy us back.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not what's going wrong right now. Mm. But I also think that had something to do with why he cheats, or why he cheated, because when I hear it, it just rings to me. When I hear him talk about money and how he still wants to, brother, buddy, I understand when you're talking like that at my age because you're hungry, you're a dog, and you're trying to set yourself up. You're 50 going into 60. Okay? Stop talking about how you're going to do shit. Okay? This is like, just be, you're supposed to be finding peace and sinking into peace. Mm-hmm. You know, this is not to, why are you still trying to prove something right now? To yourself or to anybody? Mm-hmm. There was a time for that. Mm-hmm. At this point in your life, I feel like you can mend all of your mistakes by stop thinking about money and just be a sensitive guy. Mm-hmm. Be a sensitive guy, and you can redeem the father qualities that you think you lost. Why you're so lost as why we don't see you as such a great father? Why don't you spend time on that? Spend time on figuring out what being a better father is, as opposed to saying, "Let me get more money." Mm-hmm. These are simple things, and it boils down to like, what are you making important for yourself? You know, because mm-hmm. This guy's 55. If we're playing it negative, he's got 15 more years. If we play it positive, he's got 35 more years. Why do you think that? Not why do you think? Why are you still spending so much time?
Maybe worried about an image.
I understand that you need. I understand that you need a place to stay and stuff like that, or whatever. But you're barely in love with the woman that you're in love with, and your deepest pain is from your kids, but you don't act like it. You know it. You know it, but you don't act like it, and you're acting like you got time, and you're really hoping that the pain goes away and that everyone gets to a point where everyone's happy with their own lives, that no one wants to talk about it anymore. Mm-hmm. Is that just what we're just waiting this out? Mm-hmm. We're just waiting for you to get sold. That all right? No one's talking about it. Can we just move? That's his thing. Can we just move on?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think some of that can stem with maybe the view he's always had on himself as well, that at somehow in whatever aspect that he may feel that he's just not good enough, whether it's for women or for being a father, a relative, whatever. Because for maybe, let's say, the past like 25 years of his life, maybe not so much as a teen where there was that closeness he had with his family, but definitely into adulthood, I feel like he's gotten nothing but backlash from a lot of his relatives. A lot of them have probably tried helping him get better, but at the end of the day, he registered it as, "You're just looking down on me. There's nothing I can do right in anybody's eyes." And I feel like at this age, a lot of his decision making can make sense through that lens, because at a certain point, you just want somebody to choose you. Fuck, don't like screw like the depths of how far it can go or whatever the case is, but you just want somebody to be there that's willing to stay there. And I can't speak on what he wants out of us. Obviously, a good relationship, but I don't know, because those are the question marks we've always had in life. Like, what do you want out of us? Like, do you want a relationship? Do you not? I don't know. But I think a lot of it could stem from that root. Obviously, it can go in every single direction possible, but it's the fundamental "I'm not enough" that just crawled its way into every other area of his life. Because that's just the energy I've always gotten from him. That it's he so badly wants to be on any whatever pedestal in somebody's life. So I feel like that's why, like, as kids or whatnot, always talking himself up. He was so desperate for us to see him in that light, the straight A student, the star, to be somebody to look up to look forward to. But somewhere in his own life, I think he let himself down, and all the events of his own life, it just kept feeding into that idea of not enough, not enough, not enough. Where he's at a point in his life where this is just a manifestation of that idea. Not enough. Therefore, he's living a life where it's nothing's enough.
And what's funny is that I remember when I was younger trying to rap. Let me start trying. When I was rapping, I remember when I was living with him, when we first moved up here, and it was just me and him. I was just rapping. Me and Angel, me and freestyling, things like that all the time. I would freestyle for Dad all the time. Dad does not like rap. And I would get Dad to like compliment, like Dad would be legit compliment, like, Joe, you really know what you're doing. He would talk about like driving me over to studios, and like Dad would get very, very motivated, like talking to me about doing music. Joe, you gotta do this, and then when this happens, like, and I would see him light up, living almost vicariously through me, and for what I could do. And it's like, buddy, you wanted this. You wanted this, not this. Everything that you're saying, you wanted it. You wanted it, and you see that I'm entertaining it. I'm not gonna say that I didn't want it, but I let it go pretty quickly. I feel like maybe he really did want to be a rock star when he was younger, or something like that. Because
I think it's just the idea of really going for your dream, whatever he thinks her dream is. Like, go for that. Because I've felt the same energy, especially with my own career. Obviously, he's always been into the healthcare, so me just following right up that route, he's like, yeah.
One thing that he responds to is like, go for it. Go, like he does not
like if you're serious about it, do this shit.
And he does not like, and I know that that's from what his parents did to him. He does not like being held back. He will not hold you back. He will. He might be worried and tell you like, don't do that, but he will not tell you what to do. It's funny. I'm just, cause this is what I said earlier, so I kind of want to go back to it. Comparing mom and dad at like their sensitivities. Mom is more like a dad, and dad is more like a mom, in the sense that I got a lot more of the tenderness, like the tender, soft qualities of life that I enjoy. I got that from Dad. Like the way that I appreciate weird, intricate shit, like just like Joe. Like Dad was the one that taught me how to like slow down and like do like appreciate, like really like enjoy whatever the fuck you're doing. It's almost like he gave me like the mind that I have. So I feel like he gave me like the sensitivity to like enjoy things as much as I enjoy things. I feel like he's the one who taught me how to like you could enjoy that more, like
relish in it.
Yeah, like if you understood it, like only if you knew it better. Like he gave me that feeling with everything. Like if you just knew, like he always gave me that impression. So the way that I like lust for life, I feel like I learned that from my dad. So that's a feminine quality for me. So I feel like there's that mother of like just love, and I just go for it. Like, I learned that from my dad. I got aggression from my mom, and that's what my mom doesn't understand. I don't think about my dad when I want to be tough. I don't think about how my dad approaches anybody. I don't like when I was a kid, when I was thinking about like being tough around the other kids on the fucking playground and stuff like that, I thought of my mom. I thought of my mom, and like I know exactly.
She went to mission.
Exactly. I thought of my mom exactly how she would fucking come up with this shit. And yeah, mom, like the idea of my mom would give me strength. It's funny, like if I wanted to like figure something out and be smart, I would start thinking about my dad. But if I wanted to like overpower something, I would think about my mom. Um, funnily enough, they don't think about themselves that way.
No. It's funny, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Their own perspectives of themselves just.
Yeah. Both Scorpios.
I was just thinking the same. Both like Scorpios. Keeping in mind they are both water signs, so in a way they both have these qualities.
Yeah.
Just in different areas, but they both have it. That's interesting. But just to kind of like piggyback on that comparison where you make where they have their roles flipped, that's something that I feel like I've been noticing that it's been slowly occurring, but I feel like it's become more apparent in with like this current generation that we have, where just men and women in general have been switching roles.
Mm-hmm.
Where they talk about women just being like in their masculine energy all the time, and men being more in their feminine energy, which can't say, not to say that that's necessarily a negative thing, but I feel like at no point we ever found a balance there as a collective. I don't feel like we ever found a balance. Like I feel like, let's talk 70, 80 years ago, men were extremely in their masculine, and men and women were extremely, small and feminine and whatnot. Where I feel like we've come to a point where in a desire to seek that balance, we tip the scales a little too far. And now we're experiencing this where, as a lot of people will notice it, or children with their parents.
Do you can I
that flipped role?
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Supposedly, and I don't have a reason to counteract or to counter respond to this, but supposedly that feminine switch, we can look at it spiritual and say that's what the universe is doing. The universe is bringing back the feminine, which I do believe. Wholeheartedly, I do believe, because now I'm balls deep in Kali worship. I'm balls deep in like worshiping Mother Nature as the mother and looking at God in the physical manifestation as feminine, and like the spirit as masculine. But so on a spiritual level, I do think that the universe is heavy on pushing the feminine thing, just to come back, just to literally balance it. One thing. On a super relative level, like the world and what's happening with us humans, supposedly.
Is it carrying something?
No, she has a big ass tail. Oh no, she's carrying.
She's carrying something.
Got a caterpillar.
That is so funny.
Wow.
I've never seen something like that. Just walking around with your meal. That's crazy.
And you can fly with it.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch.
That's nature. Let me tell you.
Wow.
So it's universe pushing the feminine, but
yeah, the universe is it's going through that sway where a heavy feminine surge is coming back on a spiritual level, but on a human level, like in terms of the story of us, the mind, what the human mind is doing, the mind is becoming feminine because, and this is a good thing, because we're not at war anymore, not like we used to be. So the times that you're talking about, we just came out of war, or we're getting, even if you just go back further, we were always at war. It's once you start getting into this time and times, the times that we go into war, the gaps get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're fighting less and less. That does something to all of ours, to all of our minds.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We can relax. We can get softer.
We can soft, exactly. Okay, we can relax. It's not that serious. We can, That's good. That's good. I'm fine with that. Because I don't want to go back to war. We don't need that. We don't need, I don't need everyone. I don't need that for what? Because we gotta be ready. Exactly. For what? Because you're ready to fight. No, we're not fighting. You can say it's one thing to be healthy. I want to look good. I want to know that I can do things. I want to be healthy. But to be an asshole and macho and think that that's what the world needs, no one needs you to be a dick more. No one needs more dicks. That's not what the world's asking for. And I think that's really what gets pushed across when people say, or when guys hear, oh, y'all being so feminine, or we need more masculinity back. I think that they think that they need to be assholes or rude or
these two things are not synonymous.
No, not at all. And
society's tried to make it so, but no.
Right. And I'm not even trying to encourage fighting or violence. That's not what I mean by, or that's not what I want anyone else to mean by get back to your masculinity. I don't even know what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be very clear. I also feel like that perspective is an attack on men. The reason why I say that is because women are the ones saying a lot of this shit. That they're saying, oh, men are they're like, women are saying, I want it, like, let me be feminine. I want to be in my feminine. You guys are being such bitches. Let me be feminine. The reason why I'm saying that is because when I look at men, or I'm sorry, when I look at women, women are so diverse. You guys are so different. There's no woman like my body count's pretty decent. There's women are so different. Even like enough of my partners. My partners are so different. Personality, how they look, whatever. But let's focus on personality because that's kind of what we're talking about. The girls that I've known are so different even amongst themselves that when a general ass opinion like, oh, all men are acting like bitches now, which bitch are you talking about? Because not all of you are the same. You guys are I know a girl that's smarter than all of you. I know a girl that's so much freakier than all of you. I know, like, you are all different. Mm-hmm. So when you say we're acting like bitches, which bitch are you talking about? Because you're not talking about the smart girl that I'm talking about.
I think that message boils down to, and this is what I'm assuming, this is the point that they're making, is that the men they refer to as bitches is males no longer caring to be in a provider role, let's say. I think that's where that partially stems from. Where I think there's a lot of women now that feel like it's past the point of like 50-50, where it's like some of the women have no choice but to be heavier in their masculine because the male is not at least meeting them there. And that's where I think that idea is from, like, he's being a bitch, because at that point you're just not being the provider.
I'll be honest, I think you're saying that because I know you and I know how you give it up, but the conversations that I'm hearing, they're not asking for 50-50. They're saying, why are you asking for 50-50? That's what I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. The conversations that I'm hearing are from girls saying, nigga, 50-50? Why? What fit? I can go to this motherfucker's gonna pay all my bills. Why should I be with you? Why should I be with you? Yeah. You can't do nothing for me. I can live with this guy and he's gonna pay for everything. That women, I've heard that as well. Yeah, women are not even.
It's really like even trending like in posts that I'm seeing pop up lately, like girls flexing like, I want that princess treatment or nothing.
Right, exactly. And
even that almost repulses me. I'm like, I'm not built like that.
No, you know what's funny? What's funny is that I'm not. You have the right to ask for any life that you want. I'm not saying that any of this is right or wrong. Mm-hmm. What bothers me, what does make it personal to my heart, is when you demand these things, whatever lifestyle that you want from your partner, how come you haven't put into your head that person wants to actually feel like you love them? Ask of me what you want. That I pay for everything, that I pay for half, whatever. Don't you think that I want you to actually love me? Do you think I just want to do that for you? Mm-hmm. Do you think that I wake up going, oh, where's the girl that I could just do things for? No.
Yeah. Well, no. Because they also want that right off the bat. Like, it's one thing if you have a relationship where, let's say, things did start off 50-50 or whatever, and, through just dedication into the relationship, you guys get to a comfortable point where, let's say you start doing like the stay-at-home moms thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you guys built your foundation, though.
Right.
There's that layer where you got it out the mud. You guys did what you had to do. You grinded together. You saw each other at your worst, whatever. Like, there's a beauty to that where it's like,
there's a respect.
I know that you're in it for me. Right. It's not about what I can give you.
Right.
And that's where you can actually appreciate a princess treatment where it's like, I know that you're here for me anyways. Right. So I feel like that makes the man want to pour into you more.
Right.
Because it's like, I know that you're not with me for that shit. I know if I lost it all tomorrow, you're still going to be right there.
Right.
I don't have to worry about if I can't give you this in this moment, you're going to leave me.
Right.
It gives them their own peace of mind as well.
Mm.
I don't know.
Well, all that was a long-winded version because what I was leading to is that it's all so I really do believe, especially after the mushroom trip, that I'm gonna make a whole episode about that just so I can dive into that. But after the mushroom trip, that I had a complete orgasm like a female. Where on some lines, I really think that it bordered possession by a female spirit. It really did feel like that. I can't act that feminine. I don't know how to act that feminine now. It's like it would feel like acting. That didn't feel like acting. That felt like,
experiencing.
Yeah. That was just riding a ride, to be honest. But why did I mention mushrooms? Drugs?
I don't know, because you said that was going to be for a whole other podcast to talk about that, but I don't know. I think you're going to just explain more about maybe men being more in their feminine. I think that was the point of it.
Yeah, yes. So my opinion on femininity and masculinity is that it's literally everywhere, and this is also said in the Kabbalion with the principle of gender, that gender is everywhere and in everything. It's not just in the human species expression of a male and a female. That gender exists everywhere, just like everything. It's part of the gender is part of the universe.
I know. You dropped your food off looking for some more?
Right? Hungry hippo. So everything has gender, and everything has a certain combination of gender, male, feminine, masculine. That being said, that is where we're going. We just don't realize that we're going there. Everything is going back to a balance. Okay. In a really weird way, we're going back to a oneness. Whether that means that we're going to be hermaphrodites, or whatever, all these trendy things.
And you know what, though? I feel like.
By the way, I'm not condoning that, but I had a point there.
Sorry. I just don't want to lose this one. That I feel like what some women don't realize as well, because I think, and I agree that, as male and female, we're coming to this oneness, is that even the example of our parents, where we have what's described as a very masculine woman and more feminine male, that's still in a way finding its balance. And that's why a lot of people are going to say the opposites attract,
right?
Even in that sense. And some women, I feel like, don't recognize that, so they're somehow bothered by that. But it's like, you're vibrationally speaking, this is what you're going to attract. You are going to find your other balance in a way.
Exactly.
But
people don't think about balance. People think about like, people want like and like. So I'm like this, and I want something like this. They don't think like that's not an even scale. You're gonna
exactly. But I feel like for whomever that doesn't look at things from that perspective about the balance of things, you're immediately going to have this kind of woman, preaching this certain thing, like, oh, only you seeing the one end of it, these males. But thing is, even let's say the most the male in their feminine, even that person is perfect for their match.
Yep.
Who's maybe more in their masculine.
Yep.
But that can be a very comfortable default as well. It's not because I'm in my masculine because of trauma. No, like, that can be your default, and that's valid.
Yeah.
Because you're a woman doesn't mean you need to be hyper feminine, vice versa.
Right.
A male doesn't need to be hyper masculine, and that's okay.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, don't want to take that pill. So obviously we have certain communities that they embrace it, and then there's the other aspect where they're just like, no, you're a woman. You should feel like you can stay in your feminine. No.
So as we're talking about this, my mind went to the Nakshatra book that I have, and there's 27 Nakshatras. One of them doesn't have a partner, right? So 26. So there's 13. There's 13 that have a pair. There's one, the mongoose, that doesn't have a female counterpart. It's just a male. But all the other 13 have the male and female. So like, I'm a deer. I'm the male deer in my sign. So I'm most compatible with the female deer the female deer is another sign, but her animal, the animal of that sign is the female deer.
Right.
So the animal of my sign is the male, and so and if you look at the nakshatras, you have one sign that you're 100% compatible with, and that's the one that I'm talking about, like the other deer. Then you have like three, or then you have like 3 that you're 75. Yeah, you're like 75% compatible with. Then there's another 3 that you're like 50% compatible with, and then there's another 3 that's dog shit. Dog shit, and it's actually bad. You're gonna argue. Like it's don't do it. Just like these are the people that you're gonna always argue with, and you know. The reason I say that is because that's another way of looking at another way of putting that masculine, feminine aspect into it. Because yes, there's a male and female to the animals, but even if you pay attention to the animals themselves are masculine and female. So the deer, it's kind of in the middle. It's not really masculine. It's not really feminine. It's kind of in the middle. That's kind of how I feel. I don't really feel like I'm completely like, and I don't feel like I'm completely I feel like I'm right there. Think of a deer. A deer could fucking get, like, it's gonna go if it has to, but it's also like a prancy.
Right. You know? Like most of the time, I'm just vibing.
Right. It's prancing.
No threats. We're good.
Right. So the animals are like that too. So for example, mom's animal, or the nakshatra for her animal is the male tiger. I told her that. I was like, Mom, and she's like, really? I was like, yeah.
She feels it's irony, but it makes sense.
Right, and I look at her. I told her, I was like, you feel like a male lion.
She's almost always favored tigers too. For years, she was like, I want the tiger tattoo.
Right, and I told her, I was like, you feel like a male lion, and she's like, I gave her, tiger. I gave her this analogy. I told her that I'm the deer, and I was like, see, that's why our relationship is so like. And then I looked at our compatibility. It's exactly that. Because she's the tiger and I'm the deer, our energies are very like, fuck, get the fuck out. Like she's gonna come get me. So I told her, I was like, yeah, you're a tiger, I'm a deer, so I'm always kind of like. And she's like, no, I feel like that about you. I was like, bro, your wires are so fucking crossed. Like, you don't even fucking.
That's funny.
But yeah, so I thought that was interesting because there's
It makes me wonder what my animal is.
Look at it right now.
Well, look at it.
Time. Feel free to plug in your candles and stuff. Like tell them to follow you on Instagram or something.
Oh, fair enough. Well, yes. Wow, it is kind of weird when you're just talking to yourself. I see what he means by the one-way thing. But yeah, I make candles. I make them all from home. Everything's homemade. I do my best to utilize all natural products between my wicks, my candles. I use soy wax. Yeah, I only have an Instagram. What is it? Lunabelle Scents. So you'll be seeing me soon in farmers markets, which I'll be posting there, and you can follow up. This one. So is that going off of like birthday, or is that related to the
This is
what was my moon?
Yours is Rohini. I remember yours. Yours is Rohini, and the reason why I remember yours is because I always try to understand. This is gonna get really nerdy. Like it's gonna go from like a conversation to like very
like a spiritual nerdy,
but like specific to her, specific to me. So I understand if you kind of check out at this point, but if you're in it, you're a fan. Yours is Rohini. Mine is Jeshta. The more that I looked into all these things, you are literally the opposite from me. You are Rohini, Roja. It's funny how Spanish and Sanskrit are like, there's really weird like connections. Rohini, Roja. Rohini is the red star of something. So like Rohini, like you are, I think you're Mars, or like you are the red something. Jeshta, there's another name for Jeshta that is like, it's literally known as the Rohini of the south. Like you're like Rohini's in the north or something like that. So my thing, a nickname for my thing is called Rohini of the South. And yeah, I thought about that. I was like, I never feel like we're opposites or like rivals, and they're not. They're like, they're holding the same space at two opposite ends. Rohini on this side and
Right.
Rohini and Jeshta hold the same thing on the same. They hold the same spot on the opposite ends, but Rohini's in the beginning of. It's in the beginning, so it's
like the cycle.
Right. So like you're like on the materialistic side, and then Jeshta is on the spiritual side.
Okay.
And then in the middle, none of us are in the middle, but actually, mom is in the middle, and in the middle is activity. So
just fitting.
Yeah, it like the middle is like it's like you're still caught in like you're in the beginning, so like you're trying to enjoy, not you, but like the first beginning signs are the first signs, so they're all about doing life.
Pioneer, create, do go.
Life. Yeah, get like do life, enjoy life, have life.
Yeah.
The middle is
it's the same description like with the Aries zodiac.
Yeah.
Because we're the first sign.
And then wait, hold on.
I'm the first sign.
Wow.
I'm the first cycle of everything.
Right, but
down to my blah blah.
But what's your moon?
My moon, Gemini.
So
which is crazy. I feel like my top 3 show. Like I feel like when you actually understand a little bit of the signs and look at them in order and knowing me, after I learned all that, I was like, that makes so much sense. Well, it's so fitting.
What's interesting about Rohini, because that's your thing, was you have Rohini and Aries, which is basically saying your sun is of that energy of the beginning, but also your mind is of that energy. But it wouldn't tell you that when you look at Gemini. So when you look at the Nakshatras, they fall in between the zodiacs. So your moon is Gemini, but here, so, look, if I look at Rohini, Rohini falls between. It says Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Taurus.
Which is perfect because these are my top 3. Literally.
Go figure.
My sun, my rising, and my moon.
Go figure. So that's the same thing.
I am in harmony.
And that's the same thing for me. Look at.
I want to find my animal.
That's my moon, and that's my North Star, or that's my my North Node. Sorry, but Rohini, yours.
My North Node's Virgo.
Your animal is the. Serpent. Serpent.
I think we've heard that before. The snake.
I think you're the serpent.
I'm pretty sure. I love that.
Wait, animal sign. That's what it is. Yoni. Why don't you have an animal sign? Maybe it is your Yoni. Maybe animal sign is Yoni. Male horse, serpent. Because look at these. These say animal sign and it says male horse. But yours doesn't say animal sign. It says Yoni. It's a serpent.
Well, because the serpent's not an animal. It's a reptilian.
But look, probably looking at the wrong thing. Because your sign does have a male counterpart. There's only one sign that doesn't have the
what
dual.
If it is me?
No, it's not, because it's a mongoose. The animal's a mongoose.
Oh, okay.
There we go. See.
So
Rohini, serpent. Rohini. Oh yeah. So male, you just have a male serpent, and that's your. If you find someone that has, that's your best match.
That's my best match. Yeah.
Sexually.
Yeah. So okay. Cool.
So while showing. I
find that so unsurprising though. So I imagine go to that page.
Let you guys see what we're looking at real quick. So as you can see, everything that has a male and female part. What I was describing to her is that some of these animals are a lot more masculine than the others, and that could even play a role in diversifying the feminine and masculine.
Which I find no shocker that I'm in the masculine role as well.
Right, exactly. You're a female, and like it just you think that there's like this obvious black and white, like this is where the male stuff goes, this is where the female. No, it keeps going. It keeps like Like for example, all of the nakshatras, they're all goddesses. They're all female. There's no male nakshatra. They're all a female goddess because the male is consciousness. So this is the idea is that you are consciousness, and right now you're married to Rohini, and Rohini is the experience of Jezebel.
Wait, so go back to the Rohini page because I want to look at the rest of the stuff on that little chart.
And all of those things, the symbols, all of that, you wear any of that, you meditate on any of that, you charge yourself, you charge the goddess that you're experiencing.
I was gonna say I might want to take a minute to read this.
So your personality is a goddess.
Body part, forehead.
According to the Nakshatras, your whole personality is a goddess.
What is your Gana supposed to be?
Gana.
Yeah.
You're either human, god, or demon.
Oh, I have human here. Okay.
That means that you go in between doing the thing you do in between the right and the wrong.
Right.
But it's not really the wrong. They define it as being stubborn. Like, do you help others or do you help yourself? So humans do both. Humans will help others and they'll help themselves.
Yeah.
Gods will only help others. Demons will only help themselves. I'm a demon.
Okay.
Yeah, go figure, right? That's what. So what's interesting about my sign, Jeshta, it's the last sign of last sign of Tamas, and it goes into Sattvic. I'll explain that to you guys too. So
best direction is east. Well, you know, I find that funny that it says best direction east because when I showed you that map, when you put in your birthday, all the lines that you go through, all my lines, as far as the United States, all my lines are all going through the east side. Like I literally had nothing on the west coast. Like none of my path lines.
That's exactly what it says. That like you'll go best traveling that way. That's what that means. Yeah,
best direction's east. I'm like, huh.
And mine goes west. Yeah, I heard it.
Hear him crying at the door. Interesting.
But yeah, so all the nakshatras, they're the 27. The first 27, it divides. 27 divided by 3 is 9. Yeah, 7. 9. So the first 9 are Rajasic. The first 9 are Rajasic. The second 9 are Tamasic, and the last 9 are Sattvic. What does that mean? That means that the trajectory goes from activity to inertia to peace. Jeshta is the last sign. It's the 18th sign. It's the last sign that transitions from Tamas to Sattvic. So I have one attribute, or my primary attribute is Tamas, which means inertia. It almost seems stubborn. But then my next 2 attributes are Sattvic, which means they instill peace and serenity and stuff like that. So it's a very they say that it's a very tough sign. It's a strong sign, but it's a tough sign because you're shaking off that. You're the last sign. You're the last sign to shake off the tamas. You're the last sign to like basically shake off your material natures and fully pursue your spiritual natures. That's the nature of Jeshta, of my sign. And so when you look into these, it's the difference between this and zodiac. Honestly, it's just more of your mind. It's just a lot more accurate, in my opinion. Sometimes I read zodiac and I feel like I have to like use my creativity to see how it fits me. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. Zodiac is definitely describing me. I agree with it 100%. But nakshatras are so literal to the way that you think. Speaking for myself, that that I've stopped. Like I've stopped really reading zodiacs. I'm completely sold on nakshatras. Like I don't care about what my Venus is in the zodiac. I care about what my Venus is in nakshatras. I don't care about what my Mars is in the zodiac. I care about what my Mars is in nakshatras because it shows the most intricate layer of your mind. In my opinion, it shows you the part of your mind that if you're not doing spiritual work, it shows you the part of your mind that's hiding from you, that might not be obvious to you. And if it is obvious to you, congratulations, you are doing spiritual work because, yeah, that's good stuff. I have read these things to people, and they've been completely like, I don't know who that's talking about. That is not me. My mom.
Yeah.
You heard me say my mom.
I find this funny though. Also interesting though that like on the first line it says how Rohini in Sanskrit means red, and like what that relates to. But in one of my consultas, I was specifically told in my caminos that I should avoid wearing red at all times. I was like, I forget its reasoning why. I probably maybe find it in the book, in the Camino book. But I just kind of left it at that. I was like, okay. It didn't bother me because I don't wear red very often either. I've always actually been a little repulsed by that color. So
I'm glad that she said that, because now we could transition fully into Santeria. And this is why I do podcasts, folks. So since I've been reading this and this type of astrology in this form, let me tell you, in some way, this has got me even more interested in Santeria and Ifa. Why? When I look up all my nakshatras, meaning right now you're Rohini, but Rohini is just your moon. It's the most important one to know because your moon's telling you how you see reality. That's something important about Hinduism. They prioritize knowing your mind, because you have to know your mind to free yourself. If you don't know how your mind works, you're just gonna keep playing with it. You're not gonna figure
make progress. You don't have any actual direction.
Right. You're not gonna figure out the game that you're playing. You're gonna keep playing the game, but you're not gonna do anything with it. So with nakshatras, when I look into it, when I say look into it, I mean when I see the one that I have for my moon and all my placements for my planets, they repeat things in there that are verbatim things that have been told to me in my Ifa readings or in my Santeria readings, which makes me even more impressed with Ifa, because this is kind of like, well, not to downplay. I don't know how they got this either, but this is already like written. There's books about this. You can study this shit. People will explain to you how constellations work and where this comes from. It's been around a long time. This doesn't confuse me as much as Ifa or Santeria. And maybe confuse is the wrong word, because it's not confusing. But I know where this came from. I know where the wisdom of this came from. They tell you the stars and this and da 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 da. They're studying patterns. The same thing must be happening with Ifa and Santeria. They must be studying patterns of lives and stuff like that to know what each sign means. When this falls, this means this. But that's the whole intricacy, the intricate part. It's throwing things on the ground. It's something that's done in the moment. It's like it's on the spot. It's like grabbing something, you throw it down, and in that moment, that holds your destiny right there. Something that was done in 2 seconds, that holds your destiny. It's a little bit more hard to wrap your mind about, or even just to accept that that's going to tell you your fate or something close to your fate. It's hard to make sense of, because you just grabbed some shit and threw it on the ground. Nakshatras you're dealing with the stars, so at the most you're gonna have to stare at this for a very long time, and that sign's not moving, and this is the energy. So I understand, like intellectually, it makes sense to me how the zodiac came about, how villagers in Africa, in the jungles and stuff like that, how people like that in those scenarios, that I feel like that's true spirituality. Something real happened there, because that's what's speaking to them. They're using.
I feel like it's like direct understanding, for lack of a better word, with energy.
Well, yeah,
That's how they started drawing. Like whomever started drawing on these different energies and started saying, these energies feel like this, and they have these traits, and there's the consistency with that, and then you document it from there, and then you can put it to a test, maybe with these physical objects. If this energy you feel like has liked seashells, whatever the case is, utilize those things to work with whatever. But I feel like that made sense, because I feel like ancient folk are nothing like what we are like. Right. I feel like there was already the ingrained like awareness of there's more to this than body. There's more to this than mind. I feel like there was already that ingrained knowledge and openness to influence, right, at that time.
We still have to be convinced.
there was no convincing needed. Like in their perspective, I'm sure it was, no, I'm experiencing this energy. Yeah. I mean, I consider it the same way, in the most authentic way that you can imagine somebody just being montado by whatever orisha, for example. Somebody in that experience, you're not going to deny that's reality of that thing. And then when you have that kind of connection at that point, that's when I feel like you can then document likes, dislikes, traits, whatever. And that becomes your pattern. But I feel like that knowledge has to come directly from experience, at least for starters. You know, later down the road, we've played with our understanding of the religion, but for starters, I think it was boiled down to the experience of it.
Yeah.
Which I also say that because of my own experiences too, just growing up. Like before we even dabbled with all these kind of conversations as teens, because we weren't having these kind of conversations at that time. I didn't need convincing about another side,
right?
Or the idea of spirit in general. Like that was something that made itself so crystal clear to me that I was like, it really does not matter who believes me at this point. Like there are certain things that I just knew with certainty that I was like, okay.
Which reminds me,
which I for that reason alone, I can compare to, you know, their experiences and knowledge.
I forgot that that's a totally separate phone. Watch her reaction to this, folks. This is a lady who she has her page is just about her schizophrenia, and she records herself at home, and she posts some of her episodes, like what she's doing, and she'll explain it. Like, at this moment, someone was talking to me, and look at my face. I thought I was saying this. She thought I was saying that, and it's bringing awareness to schizophrenia, but also like she's making it normal. Like she talks. She has a normal podcast. She talks like a normal person, but she's open to talking about, I have schizophrenia, and this is what it looks like. And to be honest with you, I'm not schizophrenic at all, especially after seeing that. But I'm not scared to be. After watching her, it's like I understand it, and something about understanding things just makes it a little bit easier to accept.
Yeah.
And God forbid I go schizophrenic. If it's like this, I think I'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of another guy that I've seen a couple of his videos come up, that he's very open about his schizophrenia, but he's always done a very humorous spin on it. Like he's been diagnosed since he was a kid with schizophrenia. So he's made videos and just making light and humor of his situation. Where like he has an episode where he's going up the stairs and he thinks he hears people talking, and he just turns around like, the hell are you saying right now? And he makes it humorous, and he keeps it light.
Yeah.
To where, you know, you just disengage that fearful association with it.
Yeah. Her name is Schizophrenia NYC. Schizophrenic NYC.
Schizophrenic.nyc.
Schizophrenic.nyc. Shout out to you. You're great. You're a good person. I like you.
I mean, it's just basically just her having a conversation there.
Yeah. 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 But let me tell you, it takes away a lot of my judgment. You remember like those 2 or 3 times that we saw Maria after everything.
Oh.
Every single time every single time that we've seen her afterwards, how she's always got that like.
Yeah, she just has a different look in her eye, honestly.
Yeah. After seeing that lady's videos, maybe we were a little bit too hard on her. After seeing that, because that makes it sound like she can come back. Like all she has to do is look at herself in the camera, and she's like, I'm tripping. You know, like for her to get out of her schizophrenic episode, it just takes her looking at the camera, knowing that someone's gonna see her, and she goes, and it goes away. So it kind of.
Well, of course, for everybody, there's also different degrees of schizophrenia as well. Like some people have experienced more frightening hallucinations
Mm-hmm.
that, of course, then appear more frightening to people that they're around. Others, it's very simple, like, I have a couple other personality beings that I associate with,
yeah.
Or it's light like that. Where I think, at least initially, Maria's awakening to that was on the more fearful end,
mm-hmm.
where there was probably a lot of resistance in her own mind.
Mm-hmm.
So there was
maybe at some points, but there's definitely some points where she's completely going with it, where she's hearing the voice and saying, like, this lady saying that the voice talks to her, and she'll be like, no, like she'll get into like a no, that's not, like a whole conversation, a back and forth where like they'll disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that Maria showed, it's like, oh no, you didn't disagree. You heard the voice and you went, okay, that sounds right. Let's throw out all the food. Let's let's paint this with red. Let's there's certain things where it's like you're going with it.
Yeah.
You've bought into the voice, and that's where I'm learning from. I think that's why I have to watch her video, or why I found her videos, because the line between schizophrenic and spiritual it's just a line. It's literally just a line. Yeah. And I think the people that end up getting hit with the experience of full blown, like, oh my god, like I can't live like this, I need to be put somewhere, I need medication, that stuff, I don't believe that they have spirituality. I haven't seen someone with spiritual things have schizophrenic anything. I've heard people with spirituality talk about how they hear things. Like I've heard spiritual people would love. They're the first people to tell you about. I hear voices. I see this. I see that.
Yeah.
They're not telling you that they're crazy. Someone else is going to tell you that they're crazy.
Right.
And I think that's the fine line. The fine line is when it happens. Do you think that you're? Forget anyone else. When it happens, do you think that you're crazy?
Yeah.
When you're alone and it happens, you won't care. But if it happens when I'm sitting right next to you and someone starts sitting there, you're going to call yourself crazy? Because if you don't call yourself crazy, someone might invite themselves to sit there if they trust that you are not going to go crazy, because they don't want to drive you crazy. And I think that's part of spirituality, where it's like you will be given experience when you're ready for it. And I mean all of it. Seeing spirits, seeing your past lives, all of it. You will be given to it to the degree that you can handle it. And I promise you, if you are not experiencing it, it's because you cannot handle it. That's not an encouragement to go looking for it, but I'm telling you that if it's happening, it's supposed to be happening. If it's not, it's not. And there are spiritual paths where you can develop this. That's kind of like the whole point of Santeria, to get into a path, to get into a house where you can at first do sacrifices and offerings so that you clear up your own spiritual blockage, so that you can actually feel like a spirit again. And then once that becomes a reality for you, you're supposed to develop a relationship with your godparent so that you yourself become a channel for the divine, whether that's your orisha or your personal spirit guides or something like that. But the idea is to develop that on some point, right? I feel like everyone that is schizophrenic or deemed schizophrenic and held as schizophrenic, that's lazy, and not them or the people around them, but like society. That's a lazy ass society to just like lock you up, put you into like an insane asylum, and then collect a government check for you to be there. Because we're taking care of you or whatever. That's all lazy. Why don't you like, if you are gonna like do that, why don't you like try to investigate spiritual things? And I feel like the reason why they don't is because if they do, it immediately turns into a superpower. So they'll rather just leave it as schizophrenia, the system broke, give them pills, it's over, shut that down. Because if I teach you at all how to think about your situation spiritually, now I don't know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, I'd say that there can be a certain aspect, specifically referring to people diagnosed with schizophrenia, that there's some sense of denial there of how much of a alternate reality that you are able to tap into, that somebody that's never even fathomed that thought of it being remotely true it's just easier to write off with schizophrenia. This is something that's just happening to me, and I have no control over this.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are more comfortable with that, and if that's the case, then live your own truth, I guess. But I think it's just a matter of how do you want to look at this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to play out a lot on how you're going to experience it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like the comparison you made, I mean, I've seen plenty of these psychics that will have a full blown conversation with said spirit. And if you put them with two different people, with a schizophrenic and the psychic medium, one person's just confident in what they're doing and the other one's not.
Right.
So the other one feels some form of control, like I know I'm talking to this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
There's me and there's that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the other person that's like, I don't know how this is actually happening right now, right. So I'm just, this is what's going on, and I'm just riding with it, not really trying to establish any like this and that's kind of thing.
It almost makes me want to ask, what does controlled schizophrenia look like? Or maybe not controlled, purpose?
Maybe just awareness.
Well, if I do a fucking if I do an eighth of mushrooms right now, your mind is gonna say, "Oh, he did mushrooms right now. He's on mushrooms." But that, if I didn't tell you that I did mushrooms, if you just watch me, you're gonna say I'm schizophrenic. It's not. Mm-hmm. It's not just gonna be like, "Oh, like he's actually, you know, he's experiencing multiple dimensions because his mind opened up." Your mind doesn't go there. It goes there because I told you I did mushrooms. But if I didn't tell you I did mushrooms, if you just see me like that, you're a little bit, what's going on, you know? I feel like all of it. I feel like it might just be lazy. I feel like when you call someone lazy, I'm sorry, when you call someone crazy, I feel like what you're actually saying is you were too lazy to sit with that. Because if you sat with that, that would have unraveled into
lazy or fearful or denial. There's a bunch of things that can go into it.
Okay,
but it's just
I could even
a lack of effort to untangle this.
I could even say that fear is laziness to have courage. It's just a way to put it back in your hands. Mm-hmm. The power's always in your hands. I'm afraid. No, you're just too lazy to have balls right now. Stop being lazy. Have balls. No, you're not scared. There's no such thing as you being scared. You don't have the balls to be courageful right now. And for some reason, you have all the balls to be scared. You're not scared to be scared. Mm-hmm. That's what you're saying. I'm scared. Right. Okay, so you're not scared of being scared. Keep being scared. Right. You know? So schizophrenia. Do something. Hey, he'll bite you right through. He'll bite you right through that. Death from above. Sorry. I hope that you reincarnate to a higher life. Please be a human.
And you know what's crazy? I saw him earlier, and he was just walking around here, and there was a part of me that was like, I could stomp on you right now, and I was like, you're not bothering me. You have no reason to die right now. Mm-hmm. Oh my Lord. Oh, he's off. Let's see where he's at.